Let's talk about the truth that's here beyond the concept of the truth. The truth that is so obvious that it is almost seems a little bit silly to even have a discourse on it, but we live in a time where the human beings of this reality, are entrenched in what we call thought identification. And it basically creates a scenario, an experience that there is a mistaking of separation. And when I say separation, I mean an experience of an inside and an outside, a me and a world, an I and an other. And so spirituality offers teachings and pointings to help us come out of that illusion. And I was a spiritual seeker for many years, and one thing that I've found is that many times the spiritual path can go a little sideways. And even though it feels like we are on our way to the truth, or we are closer to finding out the mysteries of life, what's actually happening is spirituality just turns into another way that the mind uses in order to escape what is. So are you seeking awakening, or are you seeking escapening? Are you using the concept of awakening in order to remove yourself from the direct happening of what is? Because all spiritual paths lead you to what's here. What's here between the past and the future. What's here that doesn't need a truth or a concept in order to be understood. And spirituality many times turns into a very socially acceptable and honorable way that the mind avoids what is. Because a lot of it is just another matrix, right? And this isn't anti-spiritual, this isn't anti-growth, this isn't anti-anything. This is just pointing out a simple misdirection that many of us get sidetracked on. And I've been talking to people who have been seeking for decades and decades and putting their whole life into this desire to realize the self. But I can see that often there's this subtle, and of course it was the same for me, it's the same for everyone. There's this intention in the background that if I get this enlightenment thing, then all my problems will be solved. I just want to have that recognition, right? I want to have that Eckhart Tolle, Ramana Maharshi recognition where there's just this threshold, and yeah, maybe I got to face some fear, or I got to go through some kind of dark night. And then, boom, I'll blast it on the other side and I'll be enlightened, right? So that's just a story. That's just made up, completely made up. And it can appear like that sometimes. People have experiences like that. But for the most part, and the way that I present self-realization is that it is in a way where it typically is just a slow unfolding into the naturalness of being that you actually can't get out of. Right? You just pretend that you get out of it. You just go with your mind into another moment. You go with your thoughts into a reality made of words and imagination as a way of avoiding what is. It's crazy. It really is crazy when you start to think of it. When you start to recognize what's actually going on. And so many people start seeking for many different reasons, and let's be honest, most of them do not start seeking because they're interested in metaphysics. Right? A lot of it is motivated by suffering, by the suffering of the mind, by the suffering of an orientation to a reality that is all about the past and or the future. Imagining that there's something more. But the mind, the thoughts are like seeking machines. They just, they don't want to find. Or they want to find for a moment, and then it's like, I want to keep seeking, like the thrill of the chase. And when it gets its hands on spirituality, it latches on to this promise, this strategy that just turns into another avoidance of what's here. For me, everything outside of me is a tool finding all that is within. Yeah, I mean, in your direct experience right now, if you don't refer to thought, is there an inside and an outside? Where's the I right now that's inside? Can you find the I that wants to awaken? Can you find the I that wants to escape in? There's just thoughts, there's just programs, and there's this imagination that I am doing it, but the I is just a function of doing in itself. There's no one that's actually doing, there's just this kind of emptiness. There's this centerless presence. But all that is just like another words. It's not even presence. It's just what is. It's the most direct experience of what is. The mind wants to reject the present moment. And there really is no mind. It's just a way that I refer to the function of thought. Right? So it looks for all these ways to avoid it because there's nothing really for it here. The mind is basically a tool, or the thoughts are basically a tool so that we can imagine potentials. So that we can imagine potentials that aren't quite here now. And that has its advantages. But the present moment often just becomes another stepping stone to the destination of awakening. Okay, if I stay in the present moment long enough, then maybe something's gonna shift. But that's just a story of escape. Because reality, truth, enlightenment, what you're looking for, is nowhere else but here. But where you are, but what you are, right? The mind is looking for it, but it's looking for its imagination of what it is. Because what it actually finds, what is found in the end, is the place that you're in right now that you can't get out of. And I don't mean that in a bad, scary way. But what's here right now that you literally can't get out of? What's here that you can't turn off? Just go there. It doesn't need a name or a label. It doesn't need to be understood. Work, LOL. Work and taxes, right? Death and taxes. But awakening is the recognition of that which is here that is already awake. Okay? It's not about having no thoughts. It's not about being in a permanent bliss state. It's not about, having all of your dreams fulfilled or being happy all the time. Those are conditions. Those are not now. So it doesn't need to look a certain way. But the mind will seek for it to look a certain way. It will want to feel a certain way because the mind is basically, the thoughts are basically, they're so invested in the feeling of the body. It's like it wants the body to feel good. And it doesn't want the body to feel bad. And so all of that journey to have the body feel good, right? Desire and aversion, they talk about it in Buddhism, is seeking. Is the energy of seeking. It's wanting what isn't. And so it creates all these mental gymnastics and this whole maze that it needs to walk on, and it creates these ideas of needing to purify and needing to be a good person in order to get what it wants, in order to get what's not here right now. But the freedom that is really spoken about and what people are referring to when they talk about clearing up is the meeting of what is and seeing through the illusion of the resistance that was imagining that something should be another way. If we look around this miracle of life, this insane reality, it's like there's just so much diversity, so much beauty. And then the mind goes, yeah, this is boring though. The present moment is boring. God's up there in the sky being like, how much more shit do I need to create for these people in order for them to be happy? Like, I've given you this beautiful world, these natures, these oceans, all these different people, right? Now you got cities. Now you got all the thousands of restaurants. So you can eat food from any country, right? You can see flowers from halfway across the world. You can talk to anyone anywhere across the world. Now you can talk to a computer. You can fall in love with a computer now. And we're like, oh, this isn't enough. This isn't enough. Yeah, of course it's not enough because it's temporary. It's just temporary experiences. And the problem isn't that thoughts were happening. The problem was that there was resistance to the thoughts. There was a story that these thoughts shouldn't be happening. Right? Like there's this witness, observer, looking at its world, imagining scenarios, labeling things as right and wrong based on its conditioning. But sometimes the only thing that needs to change is the belief that something needs to change. So what are you without the belief that something needs to change right now? What are you without that story? Because there's nothing other than what is. And if what is appearing in a less than comfortable way, we've all been there. Many of us are possibly there right now. You know, I see you. There's love and compassion for that. But what are you without the story that it shouldn't be this way right now? What are you without that narrator? What's here that doesn't need that narrator in order to exist right now? Thanks for your comments, guys. Hi, Armando. Hi, Viking. Hi, GeForce Joe. So there's this trap that the mind falls into, that the thought constructs fall into, of a better state. Of a better state outside of now. And even when it hears the spiritual message that there's nothing to find, it's like, okay, maybe if I believe or embody this idea that there's nothing to find, then maybe I'll find it. Right? So it just keeps like going to war with the reality. Escaping what is. Escaping what is through its drug of thought. Thoughts seeking thoughts. Trying to change what is. And I'm not saying don't change things either. I'm not saying just sit around and do nothing. But it's a dream. We take it so seriously. And then we come up with all these ideas about, the only way that I can get enlightened is if I've done really good karma in past lives. And then we look at these teachers that are up on a pedestal. Not all of them, but yeah, some of them do talk about this narrative that, well, it's because of the karma of the being. And if you've had a lot of really good past lives, maybe you were a monk meditating in a cave, then you will get enlightenment now. Then the self will drop away. It's based on what you did in the past, whether you can recognize this or not. But what I'm sharing right now, clarity, it's not something that happens. It's the end of believing that this moment isn't enough. It's the end of seeking. This is finding, right? Like I said, the mind wants to seek. And so beliefs, the spiritual beliefs, I mean, it's not like, a belief is not something that you can hold in your hand, right? That you can point to. But it is this kind of like, it's almost as if you could say an invisible program, right? That is influencing the thoughts and therefore the actions and the activity and direction of the being. But right now, what are you without your beliefs? Get a taste for it, right? Just it doesn't mean that, okay, now I've experienced what I am without my beliefs for this moment. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden your beliefs are just going to vanish, you know? And I have that a lot. People think that just sometimes doing one session is amazing and life-changing, but it's not always like that. This is an unfolding, kind of ongoing process. It's not like a one and done thing. Like, okay, I've had my call with Trina now. Like, where's my halo? right? The identity doesn't just drop away right away because you've had a moment where you're in peace and clarity and there's a recognition of the being. But at the same time, people seek for decades and decades and decades without actually even having a direct experience like that or knowing what it even is. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to keep listening to the teachers and I'm going to keep meditating, and then like maybe one day something will happen. And not everybody uses spirituality to escape, but it is a major pattern that I see more and more. Right? And so there is a benefit to the spiritual path. I mean, it happens. There's value to everything. There is. So it has its benefits and something to do with eternity, right? There's no grand goal that you need to get to. You can pretend that there is. But what we're discovering when through this investigation of self-realization, what they call that, is that which is here that never changes. Is that which is here that needs nothing from you. Is that which is here that doesn't need this moment to be a certain way. So what are you right now without the belief that this moment should be any different? What are you without the belief in awakening right now? Because the spiritual concepts that we take on wind up being oftentimes the very block to the thing that it is conceptualizing and trying to attain. Because what the thoughts and the concepts of this phenomenon that we call awakening is actually trying to communicate is the space here that isn't able to be communicated by thought, that doesn't have a name, that can't be pointed to or shown a quality, but then at the same time, it is everything. Yeah, Viking says it's so simple, that's what makes it hard for most to grasp. Yeah, exactly. It's so simple, and that's the problem. That's the problem. But that's the good news too at the same time, that it's not a big mountain to climb. It can appear that way. It definitely appeared that way for me. Right? That was the adventure. That was the choose your own adventure that I got to experience, or that was experienced through here when I reflect through made up words. And it's okay to have a story. It's okay to still have thoughts. But they're stories. But they're thoughts. So do you actually want awakening? Because awakening is the recognition of what is. Awakening is the recognition of that which is already awake, which is right here. So you say you want this thing, well, it's this moment now, however this moment is appearing. Right? There's nowhere to hang your hat anymore. There's nowhere to define yourself anymore through concepts, through memories, through ambitions. That starts to fall away. And what you are left with is this impersonal, formless awakeness that you've been your entire life, just the most ordinary, direct experience of your being that you actually can't even get out of, even if you tried. There's no you to try it. That would just be a thought anyway. But there's a freedom in that. right? There's a freedom in this moment. Because this moment doesn't contain a story. This moment doesn't need a story. It really is just the acceptance of whatever's appearing, okay? And this beingness that I point people to in my sessions gives one a direct taste of the space, of the emptiness that all of these spiritual texts and teachers are speaking about, right? What the Buddha discovered, what Anandamayama and Ramana discovered, right? And obviously they had very extreme experiences, but the same emptiness that's within them is within every single being, within every single animal. It doesn't actually matter if you're a good person or a bad person. It's like the substratum. It's the 0-point field. So is there benefit to the spiritual path? Yeah. But I also talk to a lot of people who have been seeking for many moons. And they say a lot of the time it messes them up as well. All of the self-development and it's like a double-edged sword, because sometimes that can help too, but like it can have this addictive nature. And we all have this addictive nature, whether we're seeking spiritually or not. There's just this constant narrative that's saying this is not enough. Yeah, so to answer your question, Kai Renart, in my sessions, I ask direct questions that bring people into a pronounced experience of what they are beyond the identity construct. Because what we've been taking ourselves to be, most of us anyway, is just thoughts and words and memories, right? And the mind compiles all of that and puts it into a label, I, or whatever your name is. And then it references that, and it has a self-concept, and it believes itself to be that. But those are just temporary words, right? What are you without words right now? What are you without the past and the future right now? It feels like an I don't know, right? The unknown. But at the same time, how could you not actually know it in an experiential way, because it is you, and it's the very space that that existence has been playing out for you. And language really does fail at communicating this, because we have words like I, and it is separative in its nature. Separation inducing. Right? Words are basically an expression of duality. So it feels like an I don't know, but the mind wants to know. It wants to know. It wants a nice little idea. Okay, I am oneness. I am no self. Everything is consciousness. Everything is awareness. I am Atman. I am Brahman. I am the inner Buddha. But it's like trying to describe a taste to somebody who's never tasted something. It's like try to explain a mango, what a mango is. It's like, oh, it's like sweet and juicy and, you know, kind of tastes like a peach, but it's sweeter and it's orange, and people, it's like, it tastes like a mango. Right? That's the reference point. It tastes like a mango, but you can't, if someone's never tasted a mango before, you know, that doesn't make any sense. So I offer people a taste, basically an experiential taste. And that can have, you know, amazing transformative effects. But the most important thing is that it brings one into a direct recognition of what they are, so that they can end the seeking. because we don't actually realize how much, for many people anyway, that the seeking just turns into another annoying expression of the mind fighting with reality, another expression of escape. Escapening. It's not here. It's after doing all this meditation. It's not here. It's once I open up my spine and do lots of yoga. It's not here. It's after I go hug Amma. It's not here. It's after I do a bunch of ayahuasca. And not to knock any of that. I've done all that. And it kind of helped. Kind of just kept me seeking as well. Because the mind is looking for that moment that will change everything. But that moment is right here. That moment is you. That moment is this. Not the concept of you, not the concept of this, not the concept of the present moment, like it's somewhere that you go into. It's just the undeniable experience that you can't get out of. And now take away the I. What are you without the I that goes somewhere? What are you without the I that's trying to find something? Right? Where is this I right now? Where is the I that wants to awaken? Where is the I that wants something more? So for those who are interested in this work, check out my YouTube channel because I post a lot of the calls that I do with people. And I've done, 450 calls since then. And many wonderful people have been gracious enough to allow me to share them online. And they're very beautiful. And I'm even getting emails from people all the time, really, saying that it's enough to help them and they're seeking. So what happens at the end of escapening? What happens when the seeking ends? When there's the realization that there's nothing actually to escape to and there's no need to escape? That was just a false idea. It was never actually how it was. There was nowhere else to escape to. The resistance to what is was the suffering. And so what you're left with at the end of seeking is this very moment. And whether this very moment is appearing as thoughts or sadness or taxes or a party or a hangover, that's how it's appearing. And this isn't like a disempowering thing either. This is like stripping away the false bars of the prison of thought that was keeping you in this tunnel vision of the identity, this tunnel vision of past and future and needing to get somewhere, needing to earn something. Because everything in this world that we're conditioned in the material world, how we interact with it, it's all about you work hard, you get there. You do something, you get there. A to B. But what I'm sharing is something that you don't have to work for. What I'm sharing with you is something that's already here. And okay, I'm not going to say it doesn't take any kind of noticing. I'm not even going to say it doesn't take effort. But at the same time, here you go, right? What's between effort and no effort? Just this. Just the ordinary, but in the ordinary is the extraordinary. We just haven't noticed it because we've been chasing what is not. And so when you stop chasing what is not, the extraordinariness of the ordinariness begins to reveal itself. And just the simple pleasures of just being and just living is the gift in itself. You're living in the gift yourself. You just hadn't noticed it before. So what comes at the end of escapening? I can't say it. Doesn't need to be said. It's you without the seeker. It's you without the story. But are you seeking truth or are you seeking relief? Because the real relief is the realization that what your mind is imagining to be so scary and difficult and uncomfortable is just an imagination of your mind. Right? Meeting what's here. Eventually, you start to see that there's no me that's meeting what's here. It's not two different things. The I is just an idea. It's just a false orientation. There's no one here inside the body. There's no one here that's navigating, that's responsible for everything. Yeah, I feel hungry. The body gets up, it goes to the fridge, right? Yeah, I woke up early this morning. I had some energy. The body goes to the gym. It's as simple as that. And there's still like enjoyment. There's still pain. There still is stories. Nothing wrong with a story. I love to read now. I love to talk, chit chat. It's okay to talk about stories. It's a fun part of life. Can you talk about how you live from this knowing, how you embody this, not explaining what it is? How I embody this? There really is no how. It's that it's already here. But like booking a call or doing like a one-on-one, or if anyone wants to talk on here, I can, you're welcome to raise your hand and interact. Yeah, so life is just very simple. Loveness. It's very, it's just normal. It's not like it's super exciting all the time. I still use my mind. Like I'm doing calls with people. I'm sharing ideas. It's just kind of like back to normal, right? Chop wood, carry water. So the embodiment, I mean, there's already a what is. It's just that the resistance to what is no longer really seen as valuable. I guess you could say it like that. It's no longer adhered to and like focused on and given energy. And in that, there's a softness and an acceptance of the meeting of life, of the being of life. But that isn't something that cannot be brought about because it already is. Yeah, it's not like you create it or you earn it. It's just a recognition of what's already here, right? But the mind wants to work for it. And that's what a lot of spirituality involves. Working for what's already here. Okay. And yeah, I mean, people can clear up through meditation, like through the traditional path. Like I'm not knocking that, but I'm also just exposing the fact that it can really turn into just another matrix. And for a lot of people, especially in our modern world where there's so much information out there and modalities and perspectives and philosophies, it often does turn into that, right? The mind just starts hoarding spiritual information and imagines that the concepts and the practices is what's going to take it there, but it doesn't even realize what it's looking for. because it's looking for what is. How do you find what is? How do you find what already is? I mean, it's kind of a really silly question to ask. Like, it's like, do I even need to dignify that question with an answer? It's like, how do you kill an illusion? Well, you see it as an illusion.